Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. One of the most stunning and shocking corporate and banking fraud of recent times, involving over 5,000 crores of funds, has been that of Cox and Kings. The company has had a 260-year history. It was considered to be, or rather, it projected itself to be the Indian version of American Express. It was India's largest company in tours and travels. It had a presence all over the world with offices worldwide and companies set up worldwide. That company, which was thought to have a solid foundation, has collapsed because of massive fraud committed by its promoters. The fraud continued for many years, and it was particularly accentuated and aggravated during the period 2012 to 2019. And in the process, bankers and lenders got cheated, and so was the case of investors and shareholders. This fraud was not possible for the promoter. The promoter happens to be Ajay Ajit Peter Kerkar. It was not possible for Kerkar to continue and perpetrate this giant fraud for years together without the support of the statutory auditors, without the involvement of the independent directors, without all those who were concerned to keep a check on the management, willing to collude with the management. The company's latest audited financial statements in public domain are for the financial year 2017-18. And if you compare the position of 2017-18 with what it is today, there is no semblance of any similarity. The fact is that while the annual report for 2017-18 shows a very impressive company, in reality, by then itself, it was not. By then, it was festering with frauds, and its financial position was completely not what it was claimed to be. What does the financial report, the annual report of the company, an impressive one as we said, show for the financial year 17-18? The company shows an income of 2,399 crores, and that was with a growth rate of 15% compared to the earlier years. It had a profit before tax of 573 crores, a net worth of 4,286 crores, an earnings per share of 21 rupees, and an enterprise valuation of $1.2 billion as the management claimed. It also had a very impressive board of directors, that is the independent directors. One of its independent directors was a former chairman managing director of Tourism Finance Corporation of India, and he was also an earlier top boss at IFCI. The other one was a retired executive director of LIC in charge of investments. Both of these were men from the finance, banking, and lending background, and it is they who finally betrayed lenders and bankers who must have probably relied on their presence on the board of directors of the company. As per the annual report for 2017-18, Cox and Kings had 148 subsidiaries and associate companies worldwide. It had a presence. It had companies in UK, USA, Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, you name it. It was present in all the tourist centers of the world. That was the kind of network of business that it had. And very pertinent to note, it had a CFO who was paid a salary of almost 2 crores of rupees. This CFO happens to be at the center point of the entire fraud that has taken place. And most interestingly, one of the key business policies and practices of the company as per its annual report was to conduct business with ethics, transparency, and accountability, none of which were there in the company at all, as the subsequent event showed. The company's auditors gave it a very clean audit report with no qualifications or adverse remarks. So was the case of its corporate governance reports. And pertinently, all the key committees of the company, whether the finance committee, the risk committee, the remuneration committee, the nomination committee, the audit committee, they were all headed by these very independent directors who happen to be former bankers, former investors, former investment in charge at large institutions. This is what the impressive annual report of Cox and King showed for financial year 2017-18. But what was the reality was completely different. What was lurking below and what was concealed by these impressive financial statements and glossy annual report of Cox and Kings was an utter scam, a blatant fraud. What these financial statements did not say, and of course they would not, is that the company had recorded bogus sales of 11,000 crores during the period 2015 to 2018. Of this, 6,400 crores worth of sales, bogus sales, were transacted with one single party, which happened to be a related entity of the promoters itself. Another 4,100 crores of sales were recorded with 15 group entities, all of which had a common address, a common location, and with all of them, the company recorded the same income on the same day, month after month, year after year. By doing all this and showing a rosy picture, the company was able to take funds and the promoters were able to divert and siphon away money to the tune of 4,100 crores, which is what the enforcement directorate says. These rosy financial statements hid the losses. They hid the precarious financial position of the company. They did not disclose the money laundering and the siphoning that the promoters did. They did not disclose the bogus sales. They also showed a rosy picture to finally hoodwink all those who dealt with the company. The fact is that the financial position of Cox and Kings was not really so bad until 2011. Things started deteriorating fast for it after it acquired a UK travel company called Holiday Break for a sum of 2,250 crores in the year 2012. That was a blunder. That was a disastrous acquisition that Cox and Kings did. It did not do well. It had to be finally sold for a loss. And in the process, the company was saddled with huge debt. Its debt in 2011, the loans it had to repay were to the tune of 850 crores. It ballooned to 4,600 crores sometime in 2018, a 5-time increase in this period. The company yet managed to hide its reality until in June 2019, it defaulted on the repayment of its commercial paper to the tune of 150 crores. It was just a month before this default on repayment of 150 crores that the board of directors of the company had said that it has cash and bank balances to the tune of 1,830 crores. If it had those kind of bank balances, why would it default on repayment of a commercial paper of just 150 crores? The fact is that those bank balances were non-existent. They were claimed to be so in a very fraudulent manner. When this default happened, the lenders were dismayed. They cried foul. Investigations followed. Forensic audits took place. And very soon, an FIR was lodged. Criminal action started getting taken against the company. And it led to the arrest of its promoter, Ajay Ajit Peter Kerkar. Kerkar, in his claim, says that he was not aware of what was happening. He blames his CFO, who was paid an annual salary of 2 crore rupees, to be the mastermind of all that took place. He said he was not aware of the bogus sales. He said he was also not aware of the siphoning of money that took place. And he squarely blames the company's CFO and the internal auditor for this. Of course, the authorities refuse to believe it because all the money trails lead to Peter Kerkar's companies abroad. The investigations which have been conducted by the Enforcement Directorate, and they continue, they show that large-scale money laundering took place in the company, and because of that, the promoters were able to siphon away 4,100 crores from the company. And these funds were provided to it by the lenders, the bankers, the shareholders, and the investors. The forensic audit that was conducted by the bankers clearly shows that willful large-scale fraud was committed by the promoters year after year. Because of this, the shareholders lost, the investors lost, the bankers lost, the lenders lost, all because bogus audited financial statements were prepared. The fact of the matter is that Kerkar is clearly the mastermind of this giant scam, this giant fraud, but it was certainly not possible without the active participation, collusion, support, misconduct of the auditors of the company. The auditors of the company are guilty on various counts, and some of them were recently pointed out by the chairman of the NFRA in one of the speeches he gave. He clearly points out, and this is what we are seeing in the case of Cox and Kings also, that auditors have not been displaying professional skepticism adequately. An auditor is expected to approach financial statements given to him with a certain sense of doubt because there could be an innocent error in it or there could be a malicious fraud in it. He needs to see it with a certain sense of doubt and skepticism, and that was missing in the case of Cox and Kings for sure. The auditors did not look at the statements with any kind of doubt, and because of that, either they were aware of the fraud that was taking place or they were hoodwinked. To us, the first looks to be likely they were aware of what was taking place. The second, of course, is that the auditors compromised their independence and integrity when they gave a true and fair, clean audit report to the management of Cox and Kings. The third is that they relied heavily on representations given by the management. They did not take the trouble to go and find out facts for themselves. They just relied on written representation of the management, and in the process, they neglected and weakened their audit function. And in the process of this, they violated mandatory accounting and audit standards, and in the process, they signed bogus financial statements. In the process, of course, they betrayed the interests of all those who were relying on their financial statements. To us, the auditors must be investigated as stringently as the promoters are being investigated. But then, do not stop there. Investigate the bankers also, investigate the independent directors also, because this fraud did not happen overnight. It took place for years together. It did not take place because of one single transaction. There were hundreds and thousands of transactions, bogus transactions that were recorded year after year. And they could have been spotted if any of these, which is auditors, independent directors, bankers, rating agencies, had taken just expected reasonable due diligence to check whether the figures are right or wrong. They were all negligent. And as we always say very often, all of them need to be investigated, all of them need to be punished. Otherwise, as we very often say, we will again be discussing yet another large-scale, shocking, blatant fraud and scam that will certainly take place. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.